My guest today and over a beer, Café Luxemburger's Udo Bullmann, Social Democrats Vice President. We talk about Trump, social justice and football. Udo Bullmann, thanks for joining us on Over a Beer today. This world has changed a lot in the last week. How do you think Europe's relationship with the United States is going to change?
It's a challenge for Europe, Brian, of course, and also a lesson. Europe has to unite, Europe has to stand up, Europe has to make aware who Europe is and what Europe wants. There's always something good in the bad, and more European politicians realize that Europe has to detect its own strength to face this challenge, because it is a challenge.
What is Europe's strength now? Donald Tusk says that united we must be, or divided we are going to fall. How's this going to play out?
If Tusk would act like that and had acted like that, I think we were better off. But it's also a part of his personal campaign to be re-elected. Indeed, the member states, and he is representing the member states, could do a huge effort on Unite Europe. I only point out to the way the refugee question is dealt with. Tusk was not always on his best in that, but he could, of course, help Europe to get forward and to speak with one voice in decisive questions, like to have a very human and very solid policy of asylum, of solidarity with refugees, and many things in addition to that.
Do you think that the migration crisis, not to move away too quickly from Donald Trump, but the migration crisis needed something like a big Marshall Plan, and that Tusk has failed in this?
I think so. So we have to cope with this kind of new impact on the European landscape. We know that the very reason why we have this amount of refugees is not caused by Europeans. It is caused to a large extent also by the way in which the superpowers, or the superpower US, has dealt with international crisis, how irresponsible Russia and Turkey acted as well. But we as the Europeans have to develop a joint policy of asylum, of welcome culture for refugees, which is not naive, but is dealing with the problem in itself in a positive way, and it's high time to deliver on that.
Is Trump useful for the EU in the sense that they can unite against what he stands for? Is this a moment of change, a moment of pivot for Europe?
Has to be the answer, yes. Of course we would be delighted to have somebody reasonable in the office in Washington, and we cannot really say that we decided on having him. That would be silly to say that. But you have to take the challenges as they come, so answers has to be given.
Trump's Muslim ban, whether he chooses to call it that or not, it wasn't perceived to be a particularly quick response from the EU presidents here. It took 3 days, I think, before anybody spoke out. Yeah. Was that wrong?
Yes, this was wrong. They are shying away, and this is wrong. What we have to say is, if this guy is silly enough, if he is irresponsible enough, to lead the United States into this deadlock, Europe has to say welcome to all those people who can contribute to the wealth and to development of the European Union. Today, Europe is the land of the free, and we have to make that clear.
Democratically, politically, that's not going to work at the moment. So how do we solve that problem?
I'm not sure. It can work if we are decisively longing for that. If we talk beyond our political fractions, and socialists, social democrats are taking the lead in this discourse, if we can convince the liberals they should be convinced of a policy like that, if we can convince the conservatives, the Greens also, what should not be too much of a problem, then we can speak with one voice in the European Union, especially in this House, in the European Parliament.
Trump's mechanism for controversy is built upon lies and the devaluation of the institutions of government and of the process of government. How does Europe push back against that, or is Europe going to be continually infected by it?
Well, it's very obvious that he is not dealing with real facts, that he is pretending to deliver a policy against the establishment. I'm sure that we never had ever more establishment in the US government at the very moment. We have to reflect on our failures in the US and Europe. If populists from the right wing take over, then there was no proper delivery of good politics for the ordinary people. So this is first to consider, and we have to improve. This is also right for Europe. The European Union, if you look at the last years, if you look at the Barroso years, there was non-delivery for ordinary people. So we gained wealth, we gained richdom, but not for the ordinary man, the ordinary woman. They couldn't feel the improvement. Quite the opposite. We had a financial crisis that was paid by those who had the small income, the small budgets, and there is something wrong with that. And we have a problem of social justice, and that has to be solved.
If we look at the future of Europe, how do you solve this social inequality problem, and how do you do it quickly?
Well, that economics is about serving the interest of real people. It's not for the financial markets, it's not for the big banks, it's for you and me and all the people out there who would like to have a decent life and playing to the rules and working hard for that. And if we are not able to make it completely clear that they have a benefit from the next step of economic policy, of economic decision, of the policies of the leaders in member states, of the Commission's work, then they will not understand it. And here we have to be very, very concrete. It's totally impossible that we have 50% youth unemployment in the south of Europe. It's totally impossible that the 10% become richer and richer and ordinary people cannot afford normal housing. We have to clarify on that.
Have modern economics become divorced from democracy?
If we do not direct towards the right direction, if we do not give the right impulse on investment, on social inclusion, on employment policies, there is a danger. But this is politics, and politics have to deliver on that.
Who do you think can deliver for Europe? Is this for Angela Merkel, Martin Schulz, now from your party, is going to run for the chancellorship in Germany? Who do you think can really lead Europe in this moment?
Of course, the Commission has to do something. We, the Socialists and Democrats, are arguing for policy change in the Commission. They have to redirect economic and social policy. This is the core of what we are longing for in the second half of this mandate. It will not be possible without the member states, but Juncker can take the initiative.
Is Juncker sensitive to this?
I think personally, yes. But the Commission in itself has not yet delivered towards that direction. We want to see more on tax policy and social inclusion, and new economic initiatives on investment politics. So this has to happen to the next 2.5 years, and member states have to change. Within Germany, we will see, I guess, a fight on this question, because Social Democrats are sensitive for the needs of ordinary people. We would like to fight youth unemployment. We know exactly that the economic strength of Germany will only be kept up if we also have neighbors who can afford to buy our products. This is a very sensitive issue for us. Schäuble tends to ignore that fact, and we have to explain it to him.
The Muslim ban is a good illustration of why the European Union doesn't work sometimes in terms of its speed of process, its speed of communication, articulation of a clear direction. Do you think that this time the Commission didn't respond quickly because it was afraid of Trump or afraid of its own member states, Hungary, Slovakia, for example?
Shying away from taking the lead is always wrong in important historical situations. I would like to encourage the guys, and if it was me, then I would say, go ahead and take the lead.
Tajani is the new president of the parliament. If this had been Pittella instead, do you think Pittella would have waited?
No, he would be sensitive enough to take this momentum to find the right words, I'm pretty sure.
Why do you think Tajani was so slow?
Well, it's the old-fashioned game we already had seen with the old days of Barroso phoning up the member states, looking for the lowest common denominator, shying away from a risky word, and this is the wrong way how to react in these situations.
Do you have confidence that Europe's values will remain intact within the next 4 years?
I have good hope if we have self-esteem enough, and it will not be on us to fail on that. Social Democrats will try to take the lead on that, and others, I would suggest, should join us on that, because we are very confident that only to speak up will give Europe a positive future and will also find allies in the world.
This messaging online in particular risks getting drowned out inside an echo chamber. Do you think old-style politics, going knocking on the doors, again, has got to come back? Otherwise, we risk a divided society and one that just can't tell right from wrong.
We need both. We need media, we need online communication, but we also have to be present in the neighborhood, in the quartiers, in all those old villages and places where normally new infrastructure is very far, where people are waiting for still being communicated, where grandma and grandpa are sitting, waiting for somebody to knock on their door. We have to be there.
Why are politicians not doing that today?
Well, sometimes you are tempted to fall victim to a modernized style of not directly talking to people, but this is wrong. You need the Twitter, you need the Facebook, you need all these modernizing instruments to make yourself understandable and to create new civic communities also, which is very vivid and very useful, but it will never ever replace a good conversation in a pub.
You got into politics for a particular reason. What was it?
Social justice. The idea, and it was in my school days already. Sometimes you had good teachers, sometimes you had very nasty ones. And the nasty ones tend to pick on those who were easy victims, and I never could stand that. So I started what we called a small career by being a representative of the pupils in my school, and I was always of the opinion that if there is a fight, you can take it, but then pick on the strongest and not on the weakest. And more and more I got into politics with that.
Let's talk a little bit about trade. How do you expect Europe's trade relations with the United States to change over the next couple of years?
The very question is, are we able to organize bilaterally as well as worldwide a rule-based system which is honoring the social rights we have, the labor rights we have, the environmental standards we have. So are we able to use trade politics as a means, as a tool to improve the working relations, the living conditions on the planet? So this is the major importance of trade politics. As it stands now, the US doesn't take any interest in that, and they are going to renationalize. That means we have to find ourselves partners. You know that Canada is, the agreement is on the spot, so we have to discuss how we can improve last minutes so that it's acceptable to all sides. And why don't we find, like the Canadian government, they are doing extremely well in lots of issues where they are close to Europeans. We have to internationalize European values, otherwise we do not have a chance in a more and more complicated world.
Do you think now Europe has a real opportunity to capitalize on the damage done to brand America and to assert a stronger leadership role in the world?
Many people in the world are waiting for Europe doing that. And it's a question of our self-esteem, and it's a question of our political consequences, whether we live up to that. And I hope very much in my party group, the Socialists and Democrats, will do their utmost so that we can fulfill these expectations.
What needs done? What needs to be done for Europe to assert itself with confidence as a benevolent leadership?
In concrete terms, three things. Investment, investment, investment in a better future, in sustainable development, transformation of our old industrial structures to make new wealthy societies, inclusive societies. And politicians have to rediscover their capacity of living their vision and translate it in simple words of a better life to ordinary people. This is the most important thing to be done.
Authenticity.
Yes.
Very well. Let's see how authentic you are then. We have some questions for you. If you choose 4 of these, they're random. I really don't know which ones you're going to get.
This one and this one.
Okay.
But you have many questions.
Thank you. And one more. Take one more.
Many questions.
Good. We're
okay.
Done. Let's see where we go. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Could have become a journalist, because you have the chance to always talk to interesting people. You can be mobile in any sense of the word. You can touch on different subjects, and you keep up with concrete events. I think it's not boring.
If you did journalism, what would you focus on? Which area?
Sports.
I started in sports actually. At university, my very first job on radio. What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
Okay. If you get up in the morning, you should follow the following advice. From the first minute, you should decide yourself about what you are angry and about what you cannot get angry. So do not allow anybody to make you angry if you do not like the idea. Okay.
It's not bad advice, difficult but not bad advice. What kind of student were you? Teacher's pet or troublemaker?
I made kind of my own way. And sometimes indeed I preferred the pub to the school or to the students' room, because I always found that we could have the in-depth discussions also in the pub.
This is your thing. What's your guilty pleasure? A food, activity, song, TV show? Your guilty pleasure?
Watch football matches, to be serious about it.
Yeah.
I'm totally hooked on football matches.
Who do you support?
My favorite club is Werder Bremen in the north of Germany, and unfortunately they are not doing too well at the very moment, and I'm hoping and praying each and any day that we are going to improve during the season, yes. But I'm totally in football.
If you weren't sitting here with me today, who in the world, living or dead, would you like to have a beer with?
I'm a German Lutheran Protestant, but I would like to have a beer with the Pope, because I think he's an excellent guy.
Udo Bullmann, cheers.